Welcome to today's lesson on how to learn English skills. Whether you're a beginner or someone looking to refine your English, understanding the right techniques to improve your skills is essential. Today, we'll explore various methods to enhance your vocabulary, improve your listening skills, and overcome the common challenges faced by English learners. By the end of this lesson, you'll have a clearer path to mastering the English language, step by step. Let's dive in. How to learn words. I go to school on Tuesday again. One student asks a question which is very interesting. She asks, "What is the best method to learn new words?" Our teacher says, "There are many things which you can do if you want to learn new words. For me, reading is the best. If you read, you learn faster than people who don't read. It is good to read for 30 minutes every day." I want to show you what you can do if you want to get the maximum from reading. It is very important that the book or text which you read is interesting for you. The book can be a nice story. The text can have some interesting information for your job or your hobby. Don't read a text which isn't interesting for you. It is good to read a text in which you know a lot of words. Of course, sometimes you can see words which you don't know. When you see a word which you don't know, take a dictionary and look at the word in the dictionary. Then, continue reading. You don't have to write the word on a piece of paper. You don't have to try to remember the word. When you translate the word, continue reading. Concentrate only on understanding the text. It is important. When you see another new word, translate the word. The method is very simple. You only read and you translate new words. It is all. Reading is also good because when you read, you learn how every word is connected to other words in the sentence. You see how to connect the words correctly. This method of learning new words is very effective. Try it, and you can see how fast you can learn new words. Then, we continue with the lesson. We speak about the situation in England. We speak about the best jobs for students. This is good because I want to have a job. I want to do something after my school. I ask other students if they know where I can find a job. They tell me that I can go to a job center. The job center has a lot of jobs for students. This is good for me. I am happy that I know where I can find a job. When my day at school is finished, I go to the job center. I don't know what jobs I can do. So I ask the lady at the job center what the best job for a student is. The lady tells me that they have some good jobs for students. She tells me that I can be a cleaner or a waiter in a cafe. I tell the lady that I have no experience with these jobs. She tells me that my English is good fought work at a cafe. The training is not difficult. and I can use English when I speak to customers. The lady tells me that I can start my job on Thursday. It is all good for me. I'm happy that I have a job where I can use English. When you want to learn new words effectively, read for 30 minutes every day. How to remember words. On Wednesday, I go to school again. At the beginning of the lesson, one student says, "I started to read more. I feel that it is good for me." I can see how my grammar is better, but I have a problem. When I read and I don't know a word, I look at the word in a dictionary. Then I continue reading. Sometimes when I see the same word again 10 minutes later, I don't remember the word and I have to look at it again. Can you help me to remember the words better? Our teacher says that it is an interesting question, and she gives this explanation. It is normal that you don't remember the new word immediately. Usually, you will have to look at the word 5 times before you remember it. There will be also words which you will have to see 10 or 15 times. These words are usually verbs. When we learn a new word, the word goes through phases. Only when you achieve the last phase, you remember the word very well. There are 5 of these phases. We can look at them now. The first phase is the moment when you see the word for the first time and you don't know the word. You look at the word in the dictionary. The second phase is the moment when you see the word for the second time. You know that you saw this word before, but you still don't remember its meaning. You look at the word in the dictionary. Again. The third phase is the moment when you see the word again and you feel what it could mean, but you are not sure. For example, you know that the word is some kind of object or some animal or a verb. The fourth phase is the moment when you already know what the word means when you see it, but you are not able to remember the word when you want to say it. When this phase happens, the word is in your passive vocabulary. The fifth phase is the moment when you are able to use the word when you speak. Now, you can see there are 5 phases all together. Do you understand now why it is not possible to remember a new word when you see it for the first time? It is usually not possible to jump across all the phases with the first meeting with the word. You have to see or hear every word many times and let the word go through all the phases. You can be happy not only when you learn a new word perfectly, but also when you get from one phase to the other. When it happens, you are closer to the final goal, and it is to use the word without problems in everyday communication. It is interesting to me. I didn't know about these phases, but it is all logical. I also have this experience when I look at a new word in the dictionary, but 2 minutes later, I don't know what the word means, and I have to look at the word again. I feel stupid when I don't remember the word. Now I know that it is okay not to remember the word forever when I see it for the first time. I need more meetings with the word before I can use the word well. After school, I go to my football training. Our coach tells us that there is a match on Saturday. The school team will play against another school team from Cambridge. Our coach tells me to come and play for the school team. I am very happy, and I am looking forward to the Saturday match. When you want to remember a new word, you need to see or hear the word about 10 times. How to improve listening. The next day, I go to school again. One of the students has an important question. He wants to know how to improve his listening skills. He wants to know what the best method is. Our teacher says, "Thank you for your question. Good listening skills are very important for communication. If you don't understand what people are saying, it will be difficult for you to speak with them." There are a lot of materials on the internet for students of English. Some students can have a problem to choose the right listening materials for them. Now I want to tell you what materials you can use for listening. There are two types of materials which you can use for listening. You can listen to some audio, or you can watch a film. These are two different types of materials. When you listen to some audio, it is good to know 95% of the words or more. If the audio has a lot of new words, read the text first if possible, and look at all new words in the dictionary. When you practice listening, you practice getting information from a spoken language. You don't try to learn new words. Of course, sometimes you can learn new words, but it is not the main goal. When you listen, concentrate on getting information from spoken English. It is important to use materials at your level of English. For example, you can use books in simplified English which have an audio recording. I really recommend these books to you. They are fantastic because you can choose a book at your level of English. When you have such a book, read the book first and then listen to the recording at home or when you travel. You can read two great books at www.robinsoncrusoeinlevels.com or www.thelittleprinceInLevels.com. You can also visit www.newsinlevels.com if you like listening to the news. All these materials are in 3 levels of English. The second type of materials for listening practice are films and videos on www.youtube.com. These are also very good. You can start to use them when you know 2,000 words in English or more. This is what you should do with a film. Watch it for the first time with subtitles so that you know the story of the film. Then, watch the film without subtitles. If you like the film very much, you can watch it more than once. When you watch one film many times, with every view, you can understand more. It is also good to watch videos on the internet about interesting subjects. For example, if you like nature, you can watch documentaries about nature. You can also watch reality shows. Reality shows are much easier to understand than films or documentaries because the structure of the show is usually the same. It is necessary to have at least 30 minutes of listening every day. When you listen to English materials, always look at what you already understand. It can be only 10% at the beginning. It is better than 0%. Continue to listen, and soon it can be 20 or 30%. Always look at what you already know. Be happy for every new sentence which you understand. Does this information help you? Yes, says the student. Thank you. The listening topic is very interesting for me. Now I know what to do when I want to be better at listening. When you want to be good at listening, listen for 30 minutes every day. What you need before you start. On Friday, we have an interesting conversation in our class. Our teacher has a question for us. She asks, "Do you remember your first impulse to learn English? Do you remember the moment when you started to learn English?" I say that I remember the moment when I started to be interested in English. My teacher says, "Can you tell us about this moment?" I say, "Yes." First, I have to say that English wasn't always my favorite subject. I started to learn English at high school. At the beginning, it was very difficult for me. I didn't understand the structure of the language. It was illogical to me. I tried to remember words. I tried to learn grammar, but it was very hard to me. When I finished high school, I was still only a beginner. I couldn't speak English, and I believed that I couldn't learn this language. I believed that English wasn't for me. Then something happened. I always liked music, and when I was 20, I started to listen to the Beatles. I wanted to understand their songs, so I started to translate the texts of their songs. Slowly, I understood more and more. Then I met two ladies from England on a train. We had a simple conversation, but it helped me very much. I started to believe that I could learn English. From that moment, I was working on my English almost every day, and I was better and better. Then I started to go to this school. My teacher thanks me for telling my story. She also tells me, "Here is something very interesting about your story. First, you didn't have motivation to learn English. Then you had a motivation. You wanted to understand songs. You can see that motivation is very important. When you have it, you can learn English. When you don't have it, it is very hard to be successful." Then our teacher asks everybody in the class about their motivation to learn English. The stories are very interesting. One girl's motivation is to be able to read historical books in original English. One student wants to be a professional tennis coach in England. He wants to speak perfect English before he starts his career as a coach. One woman wants to work for a big international company, and she needs English for her job. I can see that everybody has some motivation to use English in real life or to get information from books. At the end of the lesson, our teacher asks us if we like English. I say, I didn't like English at my high school, but now I like it a lot. I can see how useful it is to know this language. Our teacher says, this is another important factor when you learn a new language. It is good when you like something which is connected to English. It can be people, music, culture, or history. If you like English, it is easier for you to learn it. If you want to communicate in English, it is good to know 3,000 words or more. If you don't like English, it is more difficult to find time to practice. Then, it is difficult to get to the level of 3,000 words. I can agree with my teacher. Now I like the Beatles, but also my teacher and my boss, who is also English. I also like English humor. Now it is much easier for me to find time to practice English every day. On Saturday, I go to play football for my school team. We have some very good players on our team, and we win 3-2. We are all very happy. We go to the pub after the match, and we celebrate our victory. When you want to learn English, you need to have motivation to use English every day. What to do when you are shy. On Thursday, I go to school again. One student has a very interesting question. She says, I am very shy when I have to speak English. Can you help me? I don't want to be so shy. Our teacher says, it is true that when we use foreign languages, it is natural that we are shy. We do something what we don't know perfectly. The possibility of making a mistake is very high. I was also very shy when I learnt foreign languages. I remember well how I was afraid to make a mistake. When I made a mistake, I felt stupid, and sometimes my face was red. Now, it is different. I use languages for communication. I care only about communication. You know that I am learning Spanish these days. Sometimes I make a mistake, but it can't stop me from using Spanish. It is true that sometimes I still feel shy when I have to speak Spanish. Sometimes my face is red, but I don't care much about it. It is a natural human feeling, and it is always a short moment. I continue using Spanish because I know that only by using it, I can be better. I also try to see things as they are. I am a student, and I am on the way to good Spanish. It is not possible to jump many levels in one day. The beginner can't be a perfect speaker in 1 hour. I also see what I mean to people around me. When I already speak some Spanish, I have a value to people who speak Spanish. You can see the same. When you already speak some English, you can have a conversation with other people in English. That's great. Look at what you already know. You know 2,000 words. You have already gone from 0 to 2,000 words. Be happy for it. Some students have a feeling that to know English means to be able to speak like a native speaker, to have perfect pronunciation, perfect grammar, and speak perfectly without any mistakes. They think that if they are not doing that, they don't know English. They are shy because they are not perfect. These students are very hard on themselves, and it is not necessary. You are great because you already speak some English. Continue working on your English, and your shyness can step by step go away. I like what our teacher tell us. I am also sometimes shy. I know that I have to practice speaking a lot, but in some situations, I don't want to look stupid, and I don't speak as much as I can. I decide to be more brave in these situations and use them to practice more. Then one student says, "Sometimes I want to say something, but I don't know the word which I want to say. Then I stop and I don't know what to do." In these situations, I feel very stupid. Then the next time when I can speak English, I don't want to speak because I don't want to be in this stupid situation again. Can you help me with this? Our teacher says, when you start to speak English, you have to prepare for one thing. It is a situation when you don't know a word which you want to say. In such a situation, you have to learn how to describe the word. This ability is very important when you learn a new language. You need to learn this ability. You need to train how to express ideas with the vocabulary which you have. For example, you don't know how to say the word key. You can describe it as a small thing for opening a door. You also describe words in your native language, but usually you don't know it. If you don't know the word for something, you simply describe it to the other person so that the other person understands what it is. You can do the same thing in English, but you really need to train this ability. Thinking aloud is a very good technique to use when you want to be able to describe well. Use thinking aloud every day, and your ability to describe things can be better. You can learn English only when you use English. It is okay to be shy, but it can't stop you from using English. What to do when you need help? It is Wednesday, and I go to school again. At the beginning of the next lesson, Monica has a question for my teacher. She asks her, "How do you know all this? Where did you learn information about studying languages?" Our teacher says, "There are many ways how I get information about learning languages. The first way is through experience. I started to teach 7 years ago. I have many years of experience." When I teach you, I observe what works and what doesn't work, and then I use only things which help. I also study materials about learning languages on the internet. When I find something interesting, I test it in one of my classes. If it works, I use it in all other classes. I have a good friend. She is also a teacher, and we often speak about the best way to learn languages. Sometimes she gives me good tips for my classes. There is also another way how I get information. It is usually during moments when I have a question, but I can't find an answer to this question. During these moments, I go and visit my magic park, and I get the answer there. Monica tells my teacher, "This is interesting. How do you get the answers in the magic park? Where is the magic park? Can we go there too?" My teacher says, "What I want to tell you now is not real to everybody. If it sounds crazy, I am sorry. But you asked for it, so I am giving you the answer." I believe that if you have a question and you ask the universe for an answer, the answer comes. When I have a question, I go to the magic park. I sit on a bench. I relax my body. I breathe slowly, and I try to stop my thinking. Then, I ask the question. This is all. Sometimes the answer comes as a new idea in my head. Sometimes somebody who I meet later tells me something which helps me get the answer. Sometimes I watch an interesting video on the internet and I find the answer there. Sometimes the answers come the next day in the morning when I wake up. What is interesting is the fact that the answers usually come. I am very happy when they come. As I said, you don't have to believe what I am telling you, but this is what I do and how it works for me. The park is not very far from here. It is a 10-minute walk. A lot of people go to the park to relax. It is beautiful. It has a very nice atmosphere. I call it a magic park because it is magical for me. My teacher's words are very interesting for me. I didn't know that people can ask the universe for answers. Maybe in the future, when I have some interesting question, I can go to the park and also ask for an answer. When you have a problem with something, ask for help. Thank you for joining us in today's lesson on how to learn English skills. We hope the strategies and insights shared have provided you with practical steps to enhance your English learning journey. Remember, mastering a new language is a process that involves patience, practice, and perseverance. Keep revisiting the phases of learning new words, practicing your listening skills, and building confidence in speaking. Stay motivated and don't hesitate to revisit these tips as you progress. Until next time, keep learning and practicing. Goodbye and happy studying!